Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Ben, and today we're going to be looking at the Vicers Les Paul style guitar available from Temu. Let's get into it. I'm assuming if you're here, you've probably watched my most recent video, or perhaps you just have a general interest in purchasing a guitar off of Temu. In full disclosure, I should mention that I did pick out this guitar from Temu. They did send it to me free of charge, and if at the end of this review you're interested in purchasing it, I will put a link for it in the description below. There's also a link for a $100 coupon bundle, whatever that means. And while I don't shop on Temu very often, they do have free delivery as well as a delivery guarantee, which I think just means that if you buy something, they are going to guarantee that they deliver it to you. I also want to mention that if you download the Temu app onto your phone and do your shopping that way, there's some additional perks and bonuses. So give it a shot if you feel like it. And thank you Temu for sending this guitar. Now let's get into the review of this. Now when it comes to the general look of this guitar, I just don't really feel like there's much I need to say about that. But I will admit that at $263, it is quite a steal for this guitar. Now, seeing as there's not really a lot of credible information out there about it, I figure it's my turn now to give you guys some more information on the Vicers Les Paul custom guitar. Now, as far as the general look goes, there's a few things I want to point out here. There is a pearl binding going around the outside of the guitar, which I actually think is kind of a nice look. You don't really see that on a lot of guitars these days. Additionally, what I like is the simple chrome hardware and black plastics. A lot of times they try to upscale these guitars by putting gold hardware, and I'm just not a fan of that. Now we've also got our black speed knobs here, and these actually all roll pretty good. I was expecting maybe half of them to have a little bit more resistance. That's kind of what you find generally on budget guitars anyway, is that they're not all made equal, but these ones do seem pretty decent. You've also got your black switch tip there, your switch. Loud, and it feels a little cheap, which is, you know, again, kind of what you expect on a budget guitar, but I'm sure it works fine. I will say that the guitar showed up pretty well set up. It did need a little bit of tweaking when I put a lighter gauge string on it, but that's to be expected. Now when it comes to the weight of this guitar, I'm getting actually a pretty beefy 8.84 pounds, or about 8 pounds 13 ounces. So it's certainly not the heaviest guitar I've ever played, but it's not light either. Well, first off, let's start with the case. Now when you get this guitar in the mail, it's going to be in a box. And there's really not much in it. You'll find the guitar wrapped in a foam cloth. There's also an 8-foot guitar cable in there, as well as a truss rod adjustment tool. That's kind of it. But that being said, the guitar did arrive in one piece, which is always a good thing. Now moving on to the body and the neck of this guitar, well, like I just said, the box doesn't really give you any details, but there is some more information on the online listing. Now they claim that this body is a solid mahogany chunk, meaning that it doesn't have a maple cap that you might find on other guitars that have a similar appearance to this guitar. Additionally, the neck also is supposed to be mahogany, and the fretboard here is rosewood. Now this body is a little bit thinner than maybe you might expect if you were to have any preconceived notions of what this body should look like. This one measures in at about 1.88 inches or so. I would have thought maybe it would be around 2, but this one is just a little bit short of that. It does have a really nice carve to the top of it. It's almost very rounded from the edge to the edge, with not really any flat space going around within the first 3/4 or inch of the body, like maybe you might also expect. Now moving on from the body, we get to the neck, and this neck is one of the more unique necks I've ever played, but that being said, it actually does play very good. I played it for about an hour, and you know, I even messed with some songs that I'm working on right now just to see how they would feel on this guitar as opposed to maybe some other guitars I have that look somewhat similar to this. And well, I have to say the neck has the most unique measurements I've ever had, really. So at the first fret, I'm getting a 0.94 inches. When I move all the way down here to the 12th fret, I'm getting a 0.94 inches. It's very interesting to have a solid flat piece of wood that goes from the headstock all the way down to the body there. Now, of course, you do have this little carve here where the neck does meet the body, but yeah, I've never had a perfectly flat neck, and honestly, it didn't bother me as much as maybe the numbers tell, but when you really do some math on some other guitars that I've measured, I mean, is there really much of a difference between, say, like a 0.85 and a 0.87 or 89? Maybe, but these dumb hands can't really feel it. Now at the nut, I'm getting a 1.69 inches, and this nut's actually pretty decently cut. I was worried maybe it would be a little too tall, but no, it does seem to be pretty good. You know, I'm not really getting any major intonation problems when you press down the first fret, which is a clear indicator of a nut that's too high sometimes. Now, out of curiosity, I was wondering what the angles would be on the neck versus the body and the headstock. So If I start with the neck flat here, then that means the body is sitting at about a 3.3 degree angle, or the neck is a 3.3 degree angle back from the body is one way you could look at it. And then the headstock, I'm getting a 15.2 degree angle back, which is somewhere in line between what you might find on an Epiphone or a Gibson, right in the middle there. Moving on to the hardware of this guitar, well, we've got some strap buttons here. These are actually pretty beefy strap buttons. I honestly don't have any problem with these. It does look like you'd get pretty decent purchase with your strap, so I'm not really too worried about that accidentally popping off. And moving up from there, we get to the stop bar and the Tune-O-Matic style bridge. Now this one works exactly like you would expect it to. You would stick a flathead screwdriver in there to adjust the height. No need for thumb wheels on this guy. And then you would also adjust the saddles back and forth using a screwdriver as well. Now let's move up to these pickups here. There's not really any information on these, but once we pop them open, we can see that the neck pickup doesn't really say anything. And then we move down to the bridge pickup there, and it does have a B indicating bridge, so we know that much about it. Now if you're curious about the readings on these pickups, well, let's plug it in and see. Now for the bridge, I'm getting a decently hot 13.92. When I move to the neck pickup, I'm getting an 8.61. Right there in the middle, I'm getting a 5.32. So yeah, I don't really know if these are ceramic or some sort of other magnet pickups, and unfortunately there's not really a way for me to find that out. But I guess we'll find out when we plug it in what it sounds like. Now let's turn the guitar over and look inside the control cavities and see what we've got here. And wow, check that out. No longer those big annoying pots. Now we've got those little tiny ones, like somebody shrunk what is normally in there and made it just a little bit tinier to fit. You don't really see that too often. And then look, we've got some little capacitors in there, and the wiring's a little bit decent, if not chaotic, but it does seem like it's wired correctly. Now let's give this thing a proper sound test, and as usual I'll put my sound settings here on the side so you can follow along. Overall, I'll say the guitar is actually pretty good for 260 bones. You can swap the pickups out, which is what I would do. I don't think they're really the best sounding pickups. They don't sound the worst though, but I think an upgrade maybe is needed there. I think my biggest pet peeve with this guitar though, of course, is this headstock and the design they're obviously trying to emulate. And there's obviously some other features on this guitar that are recreated, but maybe not with the certain quality that you might expect. And I think that's a real shame, because I think at 260 bucks, even if they changed this headstock style so it was a little bit different, maybe change the body so it had a little more uniqueness to it, it probably would be a standout at that price. But as it is, I think when you look at this guitar, there's certain thoughts and things you think about it that probably aren't the most nice things about it. But it does beg the question, ethically, is this guitar any different than maybe the copycat guitars that Slash was playing in the 80s and 90s? I don't know. Gibson doesn't seem to think so. They've certainly been capitalizing on his success. Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my video. Like I said, I'll put a link for this guitar in the description below. Feel free to check it out if you'd like, and I will talk to you guys next time.